In our world today, data ethics isn't just for the tech geeks anymore. It's become a critical skill for all of us. We're all part of this giant data ecosystem, and it's high time we really dig into what it means to handle it the right way.
I mean, really think about that. What if a piece of code, an algorithm, was the thing that decided whether you get a job, a loan, or even your freedom? This isn't science fiction, folks. It's happening as we speak, and it's forcing us to ask some really tough questions.
Just take a look at the Compass algorithm. It was actually used in the U.S. court system to predict if someone was likely to reoffend. But when ProPublica audited it, they found a shocking bias. Black defendants were almost twice as likely to be wrongly flagged as high risk than white defendants. It's just this brutal reminder of how algorithms, even if built with good intentions, can end up supercharging our worst inequalities. So yeah, what happens when we get this wrong? That's what we're going to get into now. The Compass case is a huge warning sign. But believe me, it is just the tip of the iceberg when we're talking about the dark side of data. But I think if there was one event that really dragged this whole issue into the mainstream, it had to be the Facebook Cambridge Analytica scandal. I mean, that was a real wake-up call for millions of people, showing us just how easily our own personal information could be turned against us.
And the scale of it is just staggering. 87 million. That's how many Facebook users had their private data harvested, all without them ever really saying it was okay. 87 million people just turned into data points for someone else's gain.
So how did it all go down? Basically, a third-party app hoovered up all this data, and it was then used to create these eerily accurate psychological profiles. Those profiles were then used to hit people with hyper-targeted political ads designed to influence how they thought and voted. The backlash, as you can imagine, was enormous, and it just shattered the trust we had in the platforms we use every single day.
Okay, so seeing all these risks laid out like this, it brings us to the most important question of all, right? How do we fix this mess? How do we start building a digital world that's not just cool and innovative, but also safe and fair for everybody?
And that question, well, it leads us directly to the new rules of the game. It's time to talk about the core principles that are basically becoming the foundation for responsible tech.
One of the biggest ideas here is something called privacy by design. The concept is actually really simple, but it's a total game changer. Instead of waiting for a data breach to happen and then trying to patch up the system, you build privacy protections right into the core of the product from day one. It's all about being proactive instead of reactive.
Now, a huge part of that proactive design is knowing how to actually protect people's identities. And this is a really important distinction. Anonymization means you completely and irreversibly cut the cord between the data and the person. But with pseudonymization, you're just swapping out identifiers with a placeholder, which means someone could, potentially, link it back. It seems like a small detail, but legally, it's a world of difference.
But look, clever technical tricks aren't the whole story. To really do this right, you need to build on a foundation of ethical principles. So let's talk about the 3 pillars that anyone working with data really needs to live and breathe. Okay, here they are: sensitivity, fairness, and transparency. Sensitivity is all about empathy. Just remembering that every row in your spreadsheet is a real person who can be affected by your work. Fairness is about justice. It's your job to hunt down and get rid of the kind of biases we saw with the Compass algorithm. And finally, transparency is about honesty, being upfront and clear about what you're doing with people's data and how your algorithms are making decisions.
This quote absolutely nails the shift we need to make. For so long, people have talked about data as the new oil, something to be drilled and sold. But the ethical way to see it is as potable water. It's a precious resource, essential for life, that needs to be protected every step of the way. It's a shift from being a data exploiter to a data steward.
All right, so we've got the principles, but what does all this look like in the real world? Let's move from the theory to see how this stuff actually makes an impact.
And to prove that this isn't all about doom and gloom, I want to show you what Vodafone did during the COVID-19 pandemic. It's an incredible example of how data can be a massive force for good. So Vodafone used its massive network data to help governments see how the population was moving, which was critical for tracking the virus. But here's the key. They only shared anonymized and aggregated data. That means no individual person's privacy was ever at risk. They delivered life-saving insights while protecting people's privacy, proving that you don't have to choose between ethics and innovation, you can have both.
Okay, I get it. This can all feel pretty big and overwhelming. But you don't have to boil the ocean to start making a difference. So in this last section, we've put together a simple toolkit, just 4 steps you can start taking like right now. First, just start small. Try out a simple ethics checklist on one project. Second, create what's called a data passport to track where your data came from and what you're allowed to do with it. Third, build diverse teams. Seriously, a data scientist might totally miss a red flag that a sociologist or a lawyer would catch in a second. And last, make it a habit. Hold quick, regular chats about ethics. It's how you make it part of your team's DNA.
All right, as we get ready to wrap this up, I want to leave you with one last idea, an analogy that I think perfectly captures our role in this new world of AI.
Just think of an algorithm as an apprentice. It shows up on its first day with no knowledge, no values, no common sense. It only learns from the examples we give it. So if we, the master, feed it a biased data set, then the apprentice is going to learn all of those biases and apply them over and over again, usually at incredible scale. That puts all the responsibility right back on our shoulders. We have to be good teachers, good supervisors, and guide these incredibly powerful tools towards fair and just outcomes. Which leaves us with one last massive question to think about. In this world of artificial intelligence, who is actually responsible for teaching it our values? As we build AI that gets smarter and more powerful every day, it's not enough to ask what it can do. We have to ask what it should do. And ultimately, the job of teaching it our best values, well, that falls to every single one of us.